Hello people, so I know that this has taken me way too long and I'm sorry for this look and I'm sorry for my room's a mess right now, everything's a mess right now, but I finally found the time, so I'm just gonna sit down. What's happening? I'm just gonna sit down and walk you through how I use my Sultry palette. Obviously, well, it's not obvious, but a lot of my friends have been asking me to do a tutorial since I literally told everyone to get this palette for the holidays and everyone did, and then I kind of left everyone hanging. So now I'm finally coming back. I filmed a tutorial like maybe a few weeks ago, and I plugged my memory card in my camera and then something happened and basically I lost all the footage. So that was really fun. But instead of getting really complicated and like trying to fix the memory card and everything, I've been putting it off for way too long. So I just wanna film this and take you through an easy, simple, smoky eye tutorial for anyone that's new to Sultry or new to makeup or just wants a fun tutorial. First of all, this is the Sultry palette. I just wanna give you a little tour before I start. Mine's kind of gross because I've used it a lot, but this is what it looks like. This stupid camera doesn't even do it justice, but I can't get out my camera right now. Also, as you can see, I'm literally breaking a sweat right now as I'm doing this, so that's really fun. I just put this NARS primer slash, it's concealer, but like I prime my eyes with it, and then I just blended it in with my beauty blender. These aren't usually that thick, but I just cleaned them today, so they're a little damp still. Wasn't the smartest idea I've ever had. Kind of burns also. Then I'm just gonna take my powder, dip my beauty blender in it. So I have a dry beauty blender and a wet beauty blender. So I'm gonna dip my dry beauty blender, which is wet right now because I just washed it. Actually, skip that, but pretend I'm using that. I'm using this for now because it's dry. Just gonna tap that on top of here to set it all in. I always set my eyeshadow in with powder because the eyeshadow just goes on so, or did I just say eyeshadow? I always set my concealer on with powder because then the eyeshadow goes on so much smoother and it's so much better. So just setting that in. Next, I am going to go in with my first brush. I'm gonna take this black Morphe brush. It is an M503 brush. I highly recommend Morphe. I only use Morphe now. But if you do have your Anastasia Beverly Hills brush, you can use, also throughout this tutorial, I'm gonna tell you like which side to use for each part if you just have this brush. So you're gonna use the thinner end of your brush for this, or like the smaller end. I'm just gonna dip into Fresh, that first color, and just put this all over the lid. Now when I'm done with that, I'm gonna go in with the transition shade. Basically, you never wanna go in with the darkest shade you're gonna use because it comes off really harshly. So I'm gonna go in with, you can choose either Birch, which is this one, or Twig. I'm gonna use Twig. So I'm just gonna do a light dip of that and then I'm gonna tap off my brush because I don't really want it to come on hard. Then I'm barely gonna touch my crease and I'm just gonna lightly fill in my crease with that. So I'm doing a windshield wiper motion. I'm kind of going down 3 times and then over 1. That's kind of been my routine for a while and I kind of just like how it blends out. See, you can barely see it. I mean, the comparison between both eyes is like barely there. So that's kind of how you want it to be. Now we're gonna go in with Slate, which is that gray color. So you're gonna use the same brush, tap it off, and again, you're gonna do the same thing, except now we're gonna focus even more on this outer crease. So just blending in, tapping off again. And this all is personal preference, like of how dark you want it. So for me, I'm just gonna show you like a pretty dark look, even though that's usually not my style, but for the sake of like doing this for other people, I feel like most people do like dark, and I feel like most people are not blonde with blue eyes and fair skin. So I'm gonna do what the majority situation is. As you add more on top and as you layer it, make sure you're really blending it out. Like take your time blending. The main like tip or piece of advice I have is to just like really take your time blending everything together. Now we're gonna go in with Nior, which is that darkest black color, or it's literally just black. Again, I'm just gonna continue to use this brush because for me, this is like an all-purpose brush, but, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention this. For Twig and for the other blending colors, start using the thicker end of the brush. Sorry, I forgot to put that in. But yeah, anything that's like lighter, use a thinner end. Anything darker, I suggest using the thicker end. So I'm gonna dip my M503 in that black color and just really lightly focus on this inner corner and bring it over maybe halfway, but definitely not all the way. So you can see it's starting to get a little darker. I'm really lightly blending. And again, make sure you're tapping it off. Now, I see how that's kind of a little bit harsh. For that, I like to take my M441 brush, which is like a really fluffy, I feel like great blending brush. And I'm just gonna blend these harsh edges. So the fluffiest brush you can find is good for these like harsh edges to blend. So now we're gonna do the same thing. Tap it off and go back in. Continue to focus down here. And now I'm just gonna drag it down to create a triangle. Now you don't have to do this, you can keep it up there, but I'm not doing a cut crease for this video. If you were doing a cut crease, you can keep it up there, not drag it down, and then cover the entire lid in Cyborg. But that is not what I'm doing today. So I'm just gonna focus it in the corner. I'm kind of trying to stick to the most basic version of this eye look, just because I want it to be helpful for everyone, whether you're a beginner or you're advanced. Now we're gonna do my favorite, which is we're gonna dip into Cyborg. So you can use the thinner end of your brush once again, and I highly, highly suggest spraying it. I'm gonna use my Urban Decay spray. Sometimes I use my Mario Badescu one also, and then I'm gonna take like a tiny concealer brush. This is the Morphe M421 brush. So I'm gonna spray it very generously, dip into that silver Cyborg color, and I'm just gonna start in the inner corner and start working my way to right there, just building up that color. And don't be afraid to respray and dip a few more times, because it definitely will fade. So as you can see, it's like the color's starting to build. So I suggest just keep building on top of that. But once you reach up to here, stop. Okay, so I actually missed a step, I totally forgot. You can take just that thicker end of your brush or any, I'm gonna use the, actually no, I'm gonna use Arthur, that was not English, help. I'm gonna use my M433 brush to just tap into that slate and make sure you blend this little, what's it called? Like this little border between the silver and the black. And then I'm gonna dip into Cyborg one more time, touch the silver up in the crease. Then I'm gonna just take that same brush, and this is again the smaller end of your brush, and I'm gonna wipe the corner and then the underneath of my eye with that color, and make sure you're really, again, hugging that waterline. Okay, so when you feel good about your lids, again, I'm just gonna show you what they look like. Sorry if that's a bad view, can't really tell. But when you're done with your lids, I'm gonna go in with you can use your smaller end of your brush again, but I'm gonna go in with the Morphe M213. This is another one of my favorite brushes, and I'm gonna go in with the color Slate. And I'm gonna start from this outer corner and just drag right under my waterline. Nothing intense, make sure you're tapping it off still, and just drag it under. And I know it seems scary to do a color underneath, but I'm telling you, it makes all the difference, so I really suggest trying it out. Okay, and that's it for the eyes. Now I'm gonna go put on the rest of my face so you can see what it looks like, so be right back. Okay, so this is the finished look. I hope that you can actually see what it looks like. I'm gonna try to move in a few different angles. So it's just your typical smoky eye, but kind of elevated and maybe a little more edgy. You can obviously, as I said before, tone it up, tone it down, do whatever you want, but this is basically what it looks like. I know this was kind of a shitty quality video, but I tried my best and I hope you learned something. Also, I just have lip liner on as my lip right now, and I just like put it on matte, but if you want to see what a glossier and more colorful thing looks like, this is the Tarte Tarteist Glossy Lip Paint. I love Tarte, I'm the biggest advocate for them, so you could do a little like soft lip paint too, you could do a bold color, really up to you, but this is the look, and I'll see you in the next video.